computer. All right, hello and welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And how are you, Jenny?
I am very, very excited because you are my very first show guest. And I am so happy, yay! And it is February 2nd of 2022. And this is the first time I have done something for the first time again. And it's been quite a while. So this is really exciting. So I'm very
I
happy.
feel honored. I feel so honored to be your first.
Well, you're so sweet, and you have a wonderful story. So I would love for you to share your background on your health and wellness journey, and what brought you to where you are now.
Sure. Thank you, Jenny, for having me. I'm so grateful for this experience, this opportunity. So basically, I'm Bonnie Sharf Provost, for those of you who don't know me. And I'm originally from New York, from a town called Massapequa. And now I've been living in Florida in the Tampa Bay area for quite some time. And I am a transformational health and wellness coach. I was already a health coach way before my health challenge. And I was 52. Right now I'm 54. So 2 years ago, I was living my life, and I have a family. I'm a mom of 3 of my own boys and 2 bonus boys that my husband brought with him. And so we've got a large family. I've got 4 fur babies. And so, I'm pretty much the heart of the family, as far as taking care of everything goes, the cooking, the cleaning, the shopping, the taking care of everything. And I was living my life. And then all of a sudden, I started noticing that my feet were getting really cold all the time. And it was very unusual. And I just thought, I should get that checked out. And then within a few weeks, I started noticing that my legs were feeling really stiff. And it was very odd. And then I was having a difficult time walking, which is really unusual for me because I normally have very strong legs. I worked out a lot and I had very, good muscles in my legs. And I just was having a really hard time just lifting my legs to walk. So I scheduled an appointment when I first found out, or when I first noticed that my feet were getting cold. So I had to wait a couple of weeks. And so during the time I was waiting for my doctor appointment, all of these other symptoms were happening. And it just so happened that the night before my doctor appointment, I was in my closet bending down to get something. And when I tried to stand up, I fell because my legs weren't strong enough to hold me. And I knew there was something very wrong. I started losing my balance the next day, just before my doctor appointment. I noticed I felt like I was going to fall when I was just standing still. And so when I went to the doctor finally, he immediately told me that I need to get to the hospital, that he thinks that I had, some people pronounce it Guillain-Barré syndrome, and some pronounce it Guillain-Barré, but basically it's a autoimmune condition that's supposed to be temporary, and it can get a lot worse before it gets better. It can last a couple of years, and it can even last longer than a couple of years. But they say that since this is supposed to be temporary, it usually lasts up to a couple of years. And by the end of that day, I rushed to the hospital with my husband, and they admitted me. By the end of that day, I was falling, just trying to stand up. And it was like progressing very rapidly, and it was very scary.
That I can't imagine how scary that might be. And it's, just going from being okay 1 minute and then, starting with your feet and your legs not being able to stand, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it really was. And I had no idea what was happening. And so they admitted me. They wound up doing a spinal tap and then an MRI, and they diagnosed me. Everything was testing positive for Guillain-Barré syndrome. So they told me that they were going to be doing this treatment called plasma exchange treatment, which was taking all the blood out of my body because my antibodies were attacking my own nerves, and the plasma is where the antibodies live. So they were removing all of the plasma from my blood and then replacing it with synthetic plasma. So it was a very intense procedure, and it took 11 days. So I was in the hospital for 11, actually, I was in the hospital for 13 days that time. And then once I was discharged, within just a few days, I immediately relapsed and had to go back for another round of, so to make a long story short, I was in and out of the hospital 6 times. I
Wow.
kept relapsing every time. I was returning home within just a few days. I wound up losing the ability to walk. Basically, my legs and my feet became paralyzed, and I lost the feeling and the use of my legs and my feet. And after 8 weeks, I was told that this is chronic now. It's no longer considered Guillain-Barré. They wound up changing my diagnosis to CIDP, which stands for chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. Now that
Oh,
is a mouthful.
I was just gonna say that's quite a long, yeah. Do they
Took me a
know
while.
do they know what causes something like that? I mean, what is something just all of a sudden attacks your system like that?
They don't know the cause of it. They asked me a bunch of questions, and none of them, were any. I didn't have a flu shot. I, didn't eat uncooked chicken. There was all kinds of questions that I was asked, and so they didn't know what caused it. And they also told me, once they changed my diagnosis to CIDP, they told me there was no cure for that, and that I might have to be reliant for the rest of my life on a wheelchair or a walker, and be dependent on either IV treatments or the plasma treatments or steroids. There's a number of medications, all with its own really negative side effects that I might have to be dependent on for the rest of my life. So it was devastating. It was a very terrifying experience, and it really changes a person when you go through something like that.
Absolutely. And I imagine it's got to be hard for your loved ones and your significant other and your children to watch you just kind of your health decline like that. And how did they take the news? Were they also, obviously they're supportive for you?
Yeah, all of my boys, they know me so well that they just didn't believe that I was going to be like that forever. So I don't think they ever really felt this fear that this was going to be my life now, because they know that I wouldn't let that happen. A lot of people have that same, that sense of determination, yet when something like this happens, it does change everything. It can really cause a person to identify. When you hear professionals, experts in the field telling you there's no cure for this, and you're going to have to accept the fact that this might be how you are, your new normal.
Mhm.
And it can very easily, I can definitely understand how it can totally change the way someone sees themselves and identifies who they are. And now, this is who I am now.
For sure, it can completely consume you. And I definitely believe in the power of your mind. Those that you see beating cancer and all of these other different illnesses out there are those people that are just plugging along and not letting these illnesses and problems define them. They want to live their life. Yes, there's something going on, but let's find a way to adapt to it or overcome it. You have to
Mhm.
have that strong belief and not live your life to what that you know per se this disease or syndrome or illness might be.
Exactly. So I'll give you a little bit of the backstory before I get into how I was able to heal myself. Um, Before this happened, I was already a health coach, like I had mentioned. So I was really immersed in personal development for years. And I used to go to Tony Robbins events. I was actually a crew member. And so I already had the mindset that everything that happens in life is happening for our greater good, not to us. Like, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? It really is about how we view things that determine our reality. And I've always been a believer that our thoughts create our reality. So when this was happening, each time I was returning to the hospital, and that was 6 times, each time it was of course, I still felt the fear. I still felt the distress that I can't believe this is happening again, and I have to go through this. You know, I used to have to get a catheter in my neck each time where the blood, you know, when they transfer the blood, it goes through this catheter. And that procedure of putting this catheter in my neck, it freaked me out every
I bet
time.
it's traumatizing to see
Yeah.
that. Wow.
So each time I went back, I knew that was going to happen again. And so what I was doing is I was saying out loud, I know this is happening for me. I know that there's a lesson that I'm supposed to learn from this. And I'm going to learn the lesson, and I'm going to get past this. And when I'm on the other side, I know it's going to be my greatest gift. I'm going to look at it as a blessing. And so I did really, truly believe that. And so what happened was I was open and looking for the lesson that I'm supposed to learn from this experience. And it was during my second hospital stay where I was receiving tremendous support, and that meant so much to me from all of my friends and family on social media, on my Facebook page. And one of my Tony Robbins community, one of my friends from that community had sent me a message on Facebook with a link to an interview of Dr. Joe Dispenza with someone being interviewed. And he said, "Have you ever heard of this guy?" And I had not. So I watched the interview, and immediately when I heard him speak, I knew that was why this happened to me, because he talked about how we all live in a state, most of us, I shouldn't say all, most of us are living in a state of stress. And when I say stress, what I mean is any kind of negative emotion, any kind of feeling of worry about the future, worry about something that's going on in our life right now, any kind of fear or resentment or guilt or jealousy or unhappiness, frustration, low self-esteem, any of those kind of low vibration emotions cause our body to be in a state of stress. And that causes cortisol to be pumped throughout our body. And over a period of time of living in that state of emotion and having our body respond in that way, cortisol, it all winds up breaking down, and it causes disease, or it can cause disease or illness in the body. And I truly, as soon as I heard him speak, I knew that that's why this happened, because I knew I could totally relate to that. I knew I had been living feeling worried about my adult children, feeling worried about their choices, not that they were doing anything terribly wrong, but just the fact that if it wasn't what I thought would be in their best interest in their life, it would make me concerned about, well, I just want everything to be, so good for them, and that for them to be their best self and live their best life. So I got so involved in wanting it so badly for them, it would cause me to be in a state of worry, as well as worrying about money issues and things like that. So even though I was someone who really sought out positive and motivational messages, I still felt those feelings in my core and had those thoughts of, oh my gosh, how is this going to all work out, and what's going to happen? And I totally, that resonated with me, and I knew for sure that that's what caused this to happen to me.
Wow. Yeah, stress happens to, I think everybody has some sort of stress in their body, and it really makes a difference on how you can handle a certain amount of stress, or kind of let your body give into it.
Yeah.
And it takes years to figure out what works for you, and what works for you may only work for you, or one other person. But there's so many different modalities to help with the treatment of stress. And I think, especially now with having been in this pandemic for so long, it's really starting to wear on some people. And it's actually going in a whole different, I guess, kind of direction. I had met you through the pandemic after we were in a course together, and like you said, things kind of happen for a reason. And I don't think I'd be here today talking to you had it not been for that either, because Zoom would not really be here. We're connecting in a way, and your journey is somewhat kind of like mine, and it's it's nice to see that we can create our future, but we have to have that positive mindset and determination to do that, so
Well, what's
now.
exciting is that if we know that our thoughts can make us sick, then our thoughts can also make us well too.
Right.
So that's what caused such excitement in me when I found this out, because I knew I could do something about it. I now had power. Some people might interpret it as, well, oh, well, then I'm going to be hard on myself or kick myself for being the cause of this happening to me. But no, that's not the way to look at it, because it's actually here to serve us. Challenge in general is here to serve us. So when we view it in the way of, okay, this is here for a reason, and I'm going to find out what it is, and then allow it to evolve who you are into who you're meant to be to overcome this challenge. And then you'll be in a place to lead your best life ever. And so that's what I took from it, is that instead of being hard on myself, that I did this to myself based on my thoughts, I took, okay, so if I know that my thoughts caused this, now I don't have to just be a powerless person who just takes whatever the doctors tell me and just be like, this is all I can do. They said there's no cure, so I have to just do what they say. I can heal myself by doing inner work on changing my thoughts so that I'm no longer living in a state of stress, and allow my body to heal itself, because that's what our bodies are actually designed to do. And I truly believe that we all can do this. We all can heal ourselves. I really believe in my core that we all are capable of this. And that's why I know that this happened to me in order to put me on this path, because I was already so determined to help people to live their best life and to become their best self. And I know that this happened, so it put me on this path to specifically help people who are going through a challenge, especially a health challenge, but really any challenge, to help them to let this challenge serve them to be their greatest gift, and then overcome it and lead their best life ever.
And that's what we're here for. We want to live our best life ever, right? It's fragile, and we're here to do that. And I love that you've got so much motivation and and positivity, and we're here to spread it to others. So tell me, what was the next step then? What did you start? How did you start your inner work?
Well, it really is an awakening process to who I've been being. And it really gets a little complicated. So to go into it, like all the specifics here, I don't want to overwhelm people. So what I will say is that we are living in a state of our programming. We have already been programmed since we were very young to have certain beliefs and certain ways of being, of who we think we are. And it's based upon pre-programming that happened before we even had anything to do with it. Just like the meanings and the beliefs and the way we see the world happened from such a young age, just based on our family and friends and the exposure that we had. And we have been living our lives being dictated by these beliefs, thinking that all of the thoughts that are coming into our mind is actually who we really are, when they really aren't. And when we recognize and when we find out that we really are not our thoughts, and that we are something separate from our thoughts, we are the witness underneath our thoughts, the one who's inside, that's our soul, our spirit, that's actually witnessing our thoughts. And when we start to become aware of that and disassociate ourselves from our thoughts, then we can start to become who we really are, and who we need to be in order to have our best life. So that is what I started to do, is I immersed myself into the work, and I was doing a lot of meditation. I still am. I've made that part of my regular everyday non-negotiable as part of my self-care, and getting really in tuned to my soul of who I really am, and being aware that when I have thoughts and the way that I view the world isn't necessarily the only way, to view the world and asking myself, well, is this really serving me? So I wound up being able to rise above it and change who I was being into someone different who sees the world in a different way and I act in a different way, I think in a different way, and I feel in a different way. And that is, in a sense, changing my state of being.
Wow. That's very inspiring. What does by on curiosity, what do your doctors say?
I've been asked that several times by people. I have a testimonial on Dr. Joe's YouTube channel, and that's a whole nother story of how that happened. And another synchronicity that led me to know that this is the reason for my health challenge, because I was led, it was a divinely led experience where I was given a free, full paid scholarship to attend his event. And at his event, I was given the opportunity to meet him backstage and to go on stage and to share my story. So that you can find on his YouTube channel. And I'm sorry, tell me the question.
Maybe I'll link link it. I was talking about how what your doctors think, but
Oh, yes.
Testimonial with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I can link that in the show notes so listeners can find that as well. So that'll be fun.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yes. And so that's where I was going with it, is that there are people in the comments of my testimonial who asked me that same question. And so my doctor, so basically the way that I wound up still having this IV treatments every month when I was finally able to stay out of the hospital. So from July of 19 through December of 19, I was basically living in the hospital. And so January of 2020 was the first month I was able to not have to return. And I was receiving IV treatments every month. It was 2 consecutive days of 5 hours each of these treatments. And by June, I said, I don't think I need these treatments anymore. And that's how I will know that I really healed myself, is when I'm not on the treatments, I'm not on any medications, and I'm fully functioning again. And so July, I stopped taking the treatments and I went to my neuro doctor, and he wound up saying to me, after examining me and evaluating me, he said, I don't see any clinical reason why you need to be on this treatment, on the IV treatments. And I jumped for joy.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be cartwheeling my way out of the office there. That's incredible.
Yeah, I was crying with joy, just tears of gratitude.
Wow, that's amazing. So now when it comes to somebody who wants to try to do this inner work and they reach out to you, what is the first thing that you kind of tell them or explain to them?
Sure. Thank you for asking. I now, as I had mentioned, I was already a health coach. And so now I am just going full force with, I know this is my mission in life, is to help as many people as I can. In fact, that was actually my mantra while I was going back and forth in the hospital. Every time someone tried to say to me, there's no cure for this, I would say to them, I'm going to heal myself. And when I do, I'm going to help others do the same. And I said that over and over again. And now that I look back, I realize that it really was a mantra that I would say. And that is what I'm dedicating my life to doing now. So I've done some free workshops where I help, and I'm having one actually this Sunday on Zoom. So I'll share the link that anybody can join.
Absolutely.
It's a free workshop where I'm going to share how you can use your challenge to serve you as your greatest gift and no longer continue to identify yourself with it. And then I'm going to leave some time at the end for any questions that people might have about how I healed myself. And then I also have a group coaching program. It's called Overcome to Become. And right now I had 2 5-week group coaching programs at the end of last year. And now in January, I just began a new 12-week program that started in January, and it's going so well.
That's awesome.
The coaching clients are just having such amazing shifts and realizations of who they're being. And it's so exciting. And so even people who are already immersing themselves in this work, it's so important. I cannot stress enough how important it is to surround yourself with other people who are doing this along with you in order to heal themselves also from a condition. And I just created a free group so that people can do that and have that support and feel like they're in it with other people, not alone. And then I also am, I offer one-on-one coaching as well. And that there is a one-on-one session included in the 12-week coaching program.
Okay.
So yeah, those are all the different ways that I'm doing right now in order to help others. But like I was saying, is even if you're already immersed in this work or you're going to immerse yourself in it, it's so important to have someone else who's already done the work to show you how to not get trapped up in your old pre-programming thoughts and pre-programmed thoughts, and not allow yourself to get sucked back in to those feelings of fear. And
Almost like a whole new way of thinking. You have to really retrain your brain, and it really is a lot of inner work, and it does absolutely help when you have a support from somebody, a group, a person, a peer, to do it alongside of, because it keeps you in check, right? It keeps you in balance, just as a trainer would at a gym. You know, it's hard to do things by yourself, but we've been programmed for so long. I mean, from childhood, you know, the media is always forever talking about anything that's negative
Mhm.
is what sells, you know, the violence sells. But when we try to stay positive, all we got to do is look at somebody who, you know, pulls out in front of you at the next stoplight and there's negativity. You know, are you going to let that ruin the rest of your day? Or are you going to be like, okay, that just happened, but it's not going to serve me in the next 5 minutes. I'm throwing it out the window. I'm not going to let it bother me. But you really do have to have that frame of mind where you have to just program yourself in a completely different way. But
Mhm.
it definitely takes time, and definitely doing it with a coach or somebody helps. So I hope those out there are, you know, not feeling like they can't do it. They can.
Yes,
Just
they
reach out
can.
to those that have been there, and we can help you get there.
And it takes so much more than just time. It takes such awareness. And there are so many parts of us that we just believe that this is who we are. And we've all had things happen to us in our lives that have caused us to think limited thoughts about who we are. So, for instance, it's if someone is always seeing throughout our whole life has always seen the sky as red, then how are they all of a sudden just going to start seeing it as blue? You know, it really takes someone outside of you to show you another way, to show you another way of thinking, another lens to see the world through and to see yourself through. So it really is so important to have this more personalized support and guidance when going through this, doing this work, which really does work. But it's so important to really have someone who's showing you another way of being.
Right. And you have to want to do it for yourself. I mean, because when you're a better self, you're a better mom, you're a better wife, you're, you know, better friend. But if you don't believe that you can do that, or you want to invest in time in yourself, it's not going to happen. You have to kind of be all in. You know, it's time. If you want to feel better mentally, you know, physically, then you got to be all in. You know, put in the work, put in the effort, and it will pay off. You will live your best life. But if you're kind of just getting your feet wet and, you know, tickling your toes in the sand or the water, it's just I'm not ready. Or and it's okay if you're not ready yet, because it is an investment in yourself, and you do have, you know, but it is your life, and it's worth it. You are worth it, you know.
Absolutely. Most
Yeah.
people put everyone else first before themselves and don't allow themselves to truly love themselves. You know, they have
Right.
all these limiting beliefs and they have a really hard time connecting to their greatness. So that's what I truly believe, that that's what the challenge is all about. It's in order to force you, because we all have a choice of how we handle our challenges. You know, some of us can just feel like such a victim, focus on the thoughts like, oh, I can't believe this happened to me. Maybe it's because of something I did in my life that I deserve this. And they just accept that this is just who they are now and what their life is like now. And then we have another choice. We can use this challenge to go within and to connect to our greatness and rise above it and become that person that we were always meant to be. And that's what I believe the challenge is there to serve. So it's using this challenge to say, okay, I'm in. I'm going to make this life about making me my best self, making myself a priority, and stepping up for myself and sending that message to the universe that I do matter and I am worth it. And I value myself enough to put myself first and do what it takes to make the changes that I need to make to overcome this challenge and live my best life.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm with you. I'm ready to live my best life. Let's do it. It's a shame that it has to happen like later in life. I'm just a little, in my young 40s, but you kind of get to a certain point in your life and you're just like, man, something's got to give a little bit. But sooner or later it does. And you're like, I'm shifting my life into a completely different way of thinking. And this is what it's going to be, because life is too short. You're never promised tomorrow. And you have to in order to be there for others, you need to be there for yourself. And it's all about that. So
yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of times, I think for most people, it does happen around this age, 40s and 50s, maybe even 60s, because, we live our life thinking that we know everything about ourselves, that this is who we are based upon our thoughts. And it isn't until something, unfortunately, sometimes it does take a challenge to happen or a tragedy to happen, something to wake you up to who you've been being, and to maybe there's something else that I don't know. And then really get connected and giving yourself that time during the day to just be still and just be within yourself, close your eyes and go inward.
just be present in the moment, to really be centered in that specific moment in time, the smells, the feel, the temperature. Like it's kind of crazy because you really do totally have a whole different mind shift sometimes. And some people think, yeah, oh my God, that's so hippie or whatever. But you know what? It's just the way that your mind is when you're happy and positive and motivated. That's just the way of thinking, the way that your mind, and I don't know, it's so hard to put in words, because I feel it. You feel different within your mental state, and it does affect your body. So try and, you just got to try and stay positive and motivated, and keep people around you that are within the same, that want the same things for their life. You don't want to be around any negativity, because that just brings you down. You be around those that inspire you and make you smile and make you laugh, and have a good old belly laugh once in a while, and that's always good for the soul.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Our mind is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love your title of Overcome to Become. I think that is absolutely amazing. I couldn't think of a different or a better title for that. That's incredible. You have quite the story. And I'm so glad that you are up and moving and smiling and living your best life and helping others.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I think we are winding down. Do you have any closing thoughts that you would like to tell the audience?
Sure. Well, first, I just want to say everyone, every single person, I believe, is powerful and has the divine in us. You have the divine in you, and you may not feel it right now because you might be feeling limited or defined by your challenge. But I'm telling you that we all are capable of really overcoming whatever challenge it is that we're going through in our lives. And in order to do that, it is going to take a change in who we have been being. And that's what I'm so passionate about helping people do. So if you're even interested in just finding out more, don't hesitate to contact me and I'll give you my information. In fact, my website just went live this morning.
Oh,
So
that's
it's perfect
exciting.
timing.
Yay, awesome. Yes, I will absolutely put all of your social media links in the show notes, your YouTube, um, or what did your testimonial, right, with Dr.
Yes,
Joe
yes.
Dispenza, and anything else when, if anybody wants to get in touch with Bonnie, everything will be down there for you. And I just want to ask you a couple questions that I'm going to ask my guests. So if you could go back to any time, any time, your childhood, your teens, young adult, college, what would you choose and why?
Hmm. I would choose when I think I was like 11 years old. It was my first real big challenge. I was bullied by all of my closest friends,
Mm,
and it was devastating. And it really did a real number on me of who I thought I was. And I felt a shift in who I was being from that point forward. And I know that it really had an impact on how I felt about myself. I lived then with fear of being alone and fear of not being accepted and being judged. And so I would love to go back, and I do believe that we can do that actually, go back and share, and I have done this with my 11-year-old self, and told myself that it's okay. It's all going to work out. This is for my own greater good. I'm learning how to be strong, and this does not mean in any way that there's something wrong with me, and that I'm going to see one day that it is going to be a benefit that I went through that.
absolutely. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you kind of touched base on this just before that question, but if you had just one piece of advice to give somebody who is struggling from a chronic illness or condition or everyday pain, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them to be very conscious of their emotions, of their vibration that they're living in, which is basically your emotions that you're living in. Anything that is less than good, anything that doesn't feel good, try to be aware of what thoughts created that and not allow them to attach to who you are, to determine, not to allow you to think that this thought identifies yourself, or that this means that this is true, that you immediately accept and believe that thought. And it's a process. It really is. But my words of wisdom would be, don't take your thoughts too seriously.
Yes, it's a process, and don't ever give up on yourself because you deserve it all. You deserve the best of that life can give you, and you're worth every minute, and devote it to yourself, and you'll live your best life. So
And believe that there is another possibility for you. There really is.
yeah,
There really is for everyone who's going through a challenge. There's a way of handling it one way and another, and it doesn't take more than just reaching out and finding out another way.
and there always is a way. It's never, nothing is permanent. Get out of that mindset that things are permanent and everything is temporary, and make the change, and do it, right?
Yes.
Jump in.
Just jump right in.
Jumping in. Well,
Don't
thanks,
hesitate.
Bonnie. Yes. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to connecting again. And thank you for your wisdom. And I wish you nothing but the best.
It's
And we'll talk
a pleasure.
soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenny. It was such a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Well, take care. Have a wonderful day. Okay.
Thank you. You too.
We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.